Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. I am LaShawn, your host, and friends, how is it already August? Oh my goodness, it is the last full month of summer. School started yesterday, and I feel like these are indeed what they call the dog days of summer, even though here where I am, it has suddenly like a switch went off and it feels like fall. I know it's just temporary, but I'm tired and I just started training for my half marathon and my son went back to school yesterday. Yeah, it's a lot going on. But anyway, I want to just point out that the podcast is going to be live over on YouTube because I am recording this podcast with video. Hey, new friends. But anyway, I just want to say welcome. And today it is the first of the month. So, of course, we are talking about the books that I read in July and what books are on my radar for August. My goodness, I have to keep saying that. So in July, according to Storygraph, I read, what does it say? I read 14 books. It seemed like more, but the fact is that I started like 20 books that I didn't finish. It was a weird month. Like I couldn't focus or I just could not get myself into a rhythm while I was reading books. It would start off good, but then it would lose me or it would start off too slow and I got bored. Nothing was holding my attention. So I have been continuing to DNF with abandon like I've been doing all year, but some of these books I put on my DNF for now, Pop Pal. So I will try to revisit them, return to them when I'm in a better frame of mind, when it seems like that is something I want to read. So anyway, of these 14 books I read, I'm going to talk about four of the books that got 4 stars and above and one book that got below a 3. I rarely talk about those, but I feel like I need to talk about this one. Okay, so let's go. Let's start off with What Kind of Paradise by Janelle Brown. The premise: Jane knows only the world her father has built, off grid living, philosophy books, and vague stories about her mother's death. As she grows older, Jane begins to question their secluded life and her father's secrecy. When she discovers she's been complicit in a terrible crime, she runs away to San Francisco, seeking the truth. There, in a city transformed by the rise of the internet, Jane confronts the mysteries of her past, her mother's fate, and the harsh realities beyond her father's utopia, all while forging a new path towards identity and freedom. So let's talk about what I thought. I was so excited for this book. In my head, I think I was picturing a cross between Educated and Where the Crawdads Sing. So that puts you in a frame of mind of what I was thinking. It was not so, friends. Not at all. This book was actually fine and engaging, and I was interested up until around 75%. Then when the plot twist, um, then I felt like the book just didn't know where to go after that big plot reveal. I feel like we spent the last 25% of the book just floating around. It seemed like waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then when it did drop, it was like anticlimactic, and which was so sad because I was riveted up until that last 25%. I wanted more and just didn't get it. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 because it was good, but I wanted more. The next book that I want to talk about that I completed was Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. The premise: captured as her castle falls, Princess Bryony Rosewood is stripped of her magic and freedom, then sold at auction to Tovin Hurst, heir to the notoriously cruel family. Facing a bleak new reality of servitude and danger, Bryony must navigate a world ruled by evil. But even in the darkest places, hope flickers, and unexpected allies may yet change everything. So I went into this book unaware of any previous version. or that the fact that it was based on fanfic. I missed that memo. I put it together about halfway through when I really started getting into the story. And even then, I had to look for it. That's what I'm gonna say. Which I really started getting into the story about 25% of the book. I almost put it down because I was like, I don't see why this is interesting. But I'm happy to say that around the 50% mark, I realized I couldn't put it down and was shocked when I noticed that I only had a few pages left. The ending was awesome. The love story, let's just say the chemistry was on point, and my good man Tobin, I mean, why are you resisting so hard when the truth is obvious? I mean, like, sir, I cannot wait to learn his entire backstory. So I'm really looking forward to the next book. And for Bryony, the female main character, I had my doubts, but the girl is stronger than she seemed. And I'm really ready to see what the direction the next book heads in. But I'm also mad that I've started yet another trilogy that is just beginning. But I enjoyed this one, like I said. I know there was a lot of discourse, fiction. But if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. You really wouldn't. And I can't wait to read the next one. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5. The next book on my list is Pen Pal by J.T. Gessinger. The premise. I feel like the book description that they give you on on all the websites, all the book sites, is not accurate. Like, it's confusing, which in a way was good because I went in and I was blind, but I feel like it'll be more accurate to give you my own summary. So, our book begins with Kayla standing at her husband's grave, dealing with grief and a huge house that needs repairs and is leaking. She calls a roof repairman and falls in lust/love, whatever you think. Meanwhile, strange things keep happening. Her doorbell rings and no one is there. Cabinet doors open and close when no one's there. She's losing time and forgetting things. She feels like someone is watching her. And to top it all off, she has a strange pen pal from the state penitentiary. And when he writes his first letter to her, it says, "I'll wait forever if I have to." And the girl writes back. Let's just say that by the time she figures out who he is, nothing prepares you for what's next. My review. Oh my God. My God. I felt like for half of this book, I was sitting there like, what am I reading? Like, is this a dark romance? Because, it was like a little dominant sex. It was sexy times on 10. And I was like, this is a lot. I mean, what is, but anyway. So I was like, what am I reading? Is this a dark romance? Is this a case of some stalking going on? Is there some paranormal activity mixed in? Like, what genre am I reading here? And I kept asking, what on earth is going on? Because it was just so weird. The sexy times, almost the spice, almost seemed like a distraction. There was a lot of it. I mean, really it was. Because I kept saying, what the hell is going on in between the scenes? But when the twist came, it twisted me. I should have expected it, but I did not expect it. The book was leaning towards a solid 3 for me, mildly entertaining, darkish, good sexy times, a little light BDSM, never hurt anybody. It wasn't horrible. But the plot twist, it bumped it up to a solid 4. And that's all I can say without giving it away, because when you realize what has been happening, chef's kiss. 4 out of 5. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. All right, the next book on my list is Hissy Fit by Mary Kay Andrews. The premise: the night before her wedding, in the middle of an so smart rehearsal dinner, interior decorator Keely Murdoch chances upon her fiancé and maid of honor doing the do. Keely throws a hissy fit to end all hissy fits, storms out, and earns herself instant notoriety in her tiny hometown of Madison, Georgia. The next day, though, she has to deal not only with a broken engagement, but also her business being shut out by folks in town financially obligated to her ex. Rescue comes in the form of the new owner of the local bra plant. Yeah, bra plant. A hunk of a guy. Keely can't decide if he's a hopeless romantic or hopelessly weird. Either way, he's hired her to redo the broken down antebellum mansion he's bought for the woman of his dreams. The woman, now here's the weird part, that he's never met. Or maybe he just has. I saw this on a thread and ignored it, But then my friend sent the thread to the group chat, and I volunteered as tribute since reading a Mary Kay Andrews book has been like, on my list to try to see what the hype was about for a while. Friends. After the first chapter, which I promise you was promising. I mean, when I tell you I could feel the southernness and the accents and it's like she immersed us in this little southern town and all of their accents. I could hear it, I could feel it, I could taste it, I could feel the humidity. I was like, yes, it seemed promising. And then the book went downhill for me from there. Maybe it was how this book was so uniquely Southern. Like I said, it all oohed off the page that not only fascinated me and got me hooked in the beginning, but as it kept going, I think it bothered me. Or maybe it was the way the book's side plot maybe took over what I thought was the whole plot. And maybe it was that the main side character, the guy who, the book has it made it seem like he's going to be the main character here in a relationship, because I was like, this is a romance, ain't it? He spent 90% of the book chasing another woman. And I don't know, but whatever this was, it wasn't for me. And people rave when people was like, well, where should we start with her? Everyone said hissy fit. I gave it a 2.75 out of 5, and that's being generous for me. It was well written. Like I said, I was immersed, but the story, it just wasn't for me. The last book that I want to talk about that I read in July was Everyone is Lying to You by Joe Piazza. The premise: college best friends Lizzie and Bex drifted apart after graduation when Bex vanished. 15 years later, Bex resurfaces as Rebecca Summers, a wildly successful Instagram influencer. Meanwhile, Lizzie is a struggling writer. Unexpectedly, Rebecca offers Lizzie a career-making exclusive interview and an invitation to a major influencer conference. When Rebecca disappears and her husband is murdered, Lizzie is pulled into the cutthroat world of social media. She must uncover Rebecca's secrets and past betrayals to find her, clear her own name, and potentially save Rebecca's life. I have been hearing about this book for months, mainly because I subscribed to Joe Piazza's podcast. It wasn't on my TBR until suddenly it was on my TBR. I got a Libro FM arc for it and was in the middle of my slump that I talked about earlier and said, why not? And I'm so glad that I did, that I gave this one a try. Besides being unexpectedly good murder mystery, I love the way she added elements of influencing that only influencers would know. I love how you can tell who some of the characters are based on, like, ballerina farm, cough, cough. But I also love the satire of it all. And I really just want another book based on Beck's lawyer, because she was the true mastermind. But all in all, I'm going to say this was juicy and messy and frankly, just a good time. It was my only 5-star read this month. In July, and it was just good. Now, let's move on to books that I'm looking forward to reading in August. August seems like a ghost town this month. When I was scrolling all of the lists, I looked at like 4 or 5 lists, and I looked at Goodreads, and I just looked everywhere. And I only found a few things that really caught my eye. So let me see. I have 5. Yeah, I have 5 down that I have to request from the library or get the audiobook for, or one of them I already have the advanced reader copy for it. So there are surprisingly 3 nonfiction books on this list. And anyone who knows me know that that's odd, because I don't read much nonfiction, but these I think will be worth it. So let's get into it. The first book on the list is one of those nonfictions. It's called Blessings and Disasters by Alexis Okeowo, and it comes out today, August 5th. This was on my summer reading list, and it is the first, like I said, the first nonfiction entry onto the list. Alexis Okowo grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, the former seat of the Confederacy, as a daughter of a Nigerian immigrant. Here, she weaves her family stories with Alabama's, defying stereotypes about her endlessly complex, often pigeonholed home state. She immerses us in a landscape dominated today not by cotton fields, but by Amazon warehouses, encountering high-powered Christian business leaders lobbying for tribal sovereignty, and small-town women coming out against conservative politics. The author shows how people can love their home while still acknowledging its sins. I'm intensely interested in this one because both of my parents are from Alabama. My mother still lives in Alabama. So I'm really interested in that one. I'm curious. The next book also comes out today. It's People Like Us by Jason Mott. In People Like Us, two Black writers are trying to find peace and belonging in a world that is riveted with gun violence. One is on a global book tour after a big prize win, and the other is set to give a speech at a school that has suffered a shooting. As their two storylines merge, truth and antics abound in equal measure. Characters drink booze out of the award trophy, menaces lurk in the shadows, tiny French cars putter around the countryside, handguns seem to hover in the air, and the dreams endure against all odds. I keep seeing this one on all the lists, and I keep hearing about it on podcasts that I listen to, so it's like that too sounds interesting. The next book is Dominion by Addie E. Sitchins. It comes out on, when does this come out? Comes out on the 19th. This one really caught my eye. Reverend Sabre Winfrey Jr., shepherd of the Seven Seals Missionary Baptist Church, believes in God, his own privilege, and enterprise. He owns the barbershop and the radio station and generally keeps an iron hand on every aspect of society in Dominion, Mississippi. He and his wife Priscilla have 5 boys. The youngest, Emmanuel, is called Wonder Boy. No one sings prettier, runs as fast, or turns as many heads. But Wonder Boy, his father, and all the structures in place that keep them on top are not as righteous as they seem to be. Spoiler, they never are. And when Wonder Boy is caught off guard by an encounter with a stranger, he finds himself confronted by questions he's never imagined. His response sends shockwaves through the entire community. I saw this one, like I said, and I was like, oh. Then I saw Tracy from the Stacks say that it was good. And yes, now it is on my list, and I have a copy, friends. So I'll let you know. The next book on my list is one of my nonfiction entrees, and it is a Baldwin love story. Comes out 8/19. This is the first major biography of James Baldwin in 30 years, and it reveals how profoundly the writer's personal relationship has shaped his life and work. Drawing on newly uncovered archival material and original research and interviews, this spellbinding book tells the overlapping stories of Baldwin's most sustaining, intimate, and artistic relationships with his mentor, the Black American painter Buford Delaney, with his lover and muse, the Swiss painter Lucien Happersberger, and with his collaborators, the famed Turkish actor Engin Caesar and iconoclastic French artist Joran Sazak, whose long overlooked significance as Baldwin's last great love is explored in this book for the first time. Nicholas Bogg shows how Baldwin drew on the complex forces within these relationships, geographical, cultural, political, artistic, and erotic, and alchemized them into novels, essays, and plays that speak truth to power and had an indelible impact on the civil rights movement and on Black and queer literary history. Very interested in this one. But the book is 720 pages. Feel like either I'm going to have to listen to this one or I'm just going to have to buy the book so I can take my time with it and take notes. This is not a book that I think that I'm gonna have to get from the library. I think I'm gonna either have, like I said, either I'm gonna have to buy it or I'm gonna have to listen to it. Probably gonna listen to it because that's usually what I do with these types of books. But we shall see. We shall see. The next book is Positive Obsession, The Life and Times of Octavia E. Butler, coming out on the 19th. I'm just going to read from the book description here. As the first Black woman to consistently write and publish in the field of science fiction, Octavia Butler was a trailblazer. In this work, the author places Butler's story firmly within the cultural, social, and historical context that shaped her life: the civil rights movement, Black power, women's liberation, queer rights, and Reaganomics. Morris reveals how these influences profoundly impacted Butler's personal and intellectual trajectory and shaped the ideas central to her writing. I have this one pre-ordered. It's Octavia Butler. What else does this say? And that, my friends, concludes the books on my radar for August. But side notes, the book that is not on my list, which from what I heard is the most anticipated book of the year, maybe, it is Katabas by R.F. Kuang. This, I read the description and thought about the kind of writing that R.F. Kuang does and said, oh, this is not for me. And I think the moral, that the reason why I want to talk about this, because I want us to start being okay with not reading every last It book that is coming out. Just because the book internets and the literary world and Book Talk and Bookstagram has deemed something the It book does not mean that you have to read it. I'm one of the few people who did not like Babel, which was her last book. I tried and I could not get past chapter 2. I hate Red Yellowface and DNF The Poppy Wars. That was an honest mistake, though, because someone led me to believe that that was a romantasy, and that was so wrong. In fact, I had The Poppy Wars right over here. I can see, like, I DNF'd. I still have the bookmark in it because I swore I was going to come back to it, but it's like smack dab in the middle when I realized, like, oh no, this is not for me. All of this being said, I put myself on the library wait list for it. I'm number 104. So that means that I might get this book before the end of the year, maybe, but I'm not in a rush. And again, like I said, I probably, when it becomes available for me, I'll probably pass on it because like I said, I don't feel like you have to read every book that is supposed to be an It book. That's, know what kind of reader you are. And when you read something and you read previous works by the author and you know it wasn't for you, don't force it. Don't force it. I don't want to be one of those people on the internet giving this book a 2. But I don't want to struggle read through it. I don't want to struggle read through it. I don't want to get it from the library and take someone's spot who might really, really be interested in it. Maybe when it becomes available by the time that happens. Anyway, let's get into what I just read, what I am currently reading, and what's supposed to be next on my TBR. I just finished Direbound by Sable Sorensen. This book has been on Kindle Unlimited a while, but I never heard of it. I was looking at the August arcs offered by Libro FM, and this one popped up. It was described as Fourth Wing meets Hunger Games. And for the record, I'm going to just go ahead and say I hate it when the publisher does this. It sets unrealistic expectations. We saw this with the book earlier this year that got compared to Hunger Games, and it was not. For because this book was not Hunger Games. Like, it wasn't even really Fourth Wing. It had wolves and pack versus dragon, and it did not take place at a school, but rather it was more military based. Let me give you my own summary. Meryl Cooper despises the elite bonded warriors and their direwolves, but when her sister is kidnapped by immortal enemies, she joins the army to rescue her. Thrown into the brutal bonding trials, Marin must survive 4 deadly months of training. Bonded to a silent feral direwolf targeted by ruthless trainees, she's under a constant threat, especially from her cold instructor, Stark Theron. As she fights to endure, the Crown Prince's interest in her makes her even more of a target. In a castle filled with danger, secret, and hidden knives, Marin must survive to save her sister and herself. This was actually very good. I don't know if it's because there wasn't a fae in sight and the vampires didn't really appear until near the end, but I was intrigued the entire book. The magic system had me intrigued. There was a cliffhanger / plot twist, I guess you can say, at the end that had me gasping in shock. Because the whole book, okay, I can't give it away, but I was like, no. And that made me like the book even more because I read so many books these days, and a lot of books are written from what I'll call the trope perspective. Rather than a story perspective. And therefore, I can predict a lot of plot points. And most of the time I'm fine with that because I just like to see how they're going to get there. But what I really liked about this one was that even though some things were obvious to me, the author still managed to make it interesting and surprising. I'll read the next one when it comes out. And evidently this book was self-published and then it got picked up for traditional publishing. So they did like a whole re-editing and added, like, the audiobook version has an additional chapter from one of the main characters' perspective. which gives you more insight into what was going on there. And evidently, the next book, they did more editing when she got picked up by traditional publishing. And so it comes out in May. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a trilogy. Once again, I have started a series, and it's not done. It's not done. I'm still traumatized. I gave this one 4 stars, mainly on vibes, because it had an interesting magical system and it kept me engaged. Now, I am currently listening to Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. So, when Ike's son Isaiah and his white husband Derek are murdered, Ike is shattered despite never fully accepting his son. Derek's father, Buddy Lee, an ex-con with a rough past, shares Ike's grief and guilt. The two fathers, once ashamed of their sons, join forces to hunt down the killers. As they navigate a violent path of revenge, Ike and Buddy Lee confront their own deep-seated prejudices and regrets. Bound by grief, love, and a criminal past, they're determined to seek justice for their sons, even if it means losing everything in the process. I am enjoying this one so far. I haven't gotten very far. I haven't gotten to all of, I guess you could say, the violent parts yet, but I just love S.A. Cosby's way with words. It is really violence written beautifully. The characters are written beautifully. It's just like grown up writing. I don't know how else to put it. And it's just such a treat. It is such a treat. Even listening to it, it is such a treat. My physical book that I'm currently reading is can't even say it, How Fascism Works by Jason Stanley. In How Fascism Works, philosopher Jason Stanley outlines 10 key tactics used in fascist politics, such as mythic past, propaganda, anti-intellectualism, and division to show how democracies, including the US, can be eroded from within. Drawing on history, sociology, and global examples from Hungary to the US, he illustrates how rhetoric and myth can quickly become dangerous policy. Stanley argues that only by recognizing these patterns can we resist their efforts and defend the democratic ideal. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Next up on my TBR is The Jasad Heir by Sarah Hassim. 10 years after Jasad's fall and the outline 10 years after Jasad's fall and the outlying of his magic, Sylvia, the hidden heir, lives in secrecy. But when she accidentally reveals her powers to Aaron, heir of the enemy kingdom, she's forced into a dangerous bargain. Their animosity blurs into something more, even as Sylvia hides her true identity. With rebellion brewing and the truth closing in, Sylvia must choose between the quiet life she's built and reclaiming her destiny. The burned kingdom is rising, and it may demand its queen. This book has long been on my TBR, like for a long time since it first came out, but the second book of the duology just came out, so I decided it's time for me to go ahead and read this. I'm like, can I have at least one finished series here? I also might start Blessings and Disasters this week. I have a copy and I'm really, really curious about this one. So I might start that one too. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see where I can fit it all in. Anyway, friends, that is all I have for you today. If you love this episode, please do me a favor and make sure you follow the podcast so that you don't miss the next episode. It's free, it helps the podcast, and it keeps your TBR interesting. As always, you can find me personally on IG and TikTok at LaShawn Wiltz and on Substack at Letters to LaShawn. Okay, friends, thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.